years of great experience as he electrifies your mind with in-depth discussions, expert tips, and valuable insights that will keep you ahead of the curve. Each episode, Paul will illuminate the complexities of the trade, decode the National Electrical Code, and share the latest industry trends, all while empowering you to take your electrical career to the next level. So, gear up, plug in, and get ready to supercharge your knowledge, because with the Master the NEC podcast, the power is in your hands. Now get ready. Here is your host, Paul Abernathy.
What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Master the NEC here on Christmas Eve. Here we are. We made it. First Christmas for me back in Virginia in over 11 years. So it's great to be back working out of my home office, and it's great to be with you on this Christmas Eve. Hopefully you're off of work, enjoying time with the family, and you're able to just sit back and relax and then enjoy a couple days off while you recoup with the family and get your juices flowing again to get right back into it for the first of the year. Or if you're off during the entire holiday period, again, make it productive. If you're studying for an electrical exam, again, you're off, but you're never off when you're an electrician, constantly always working and studying. And so again, hopefully you got all of that planned and you'll be prepared. I want to say some good mornings. Let me know where you're from. Josh is watching over on the player on our website on Fast Tracks Tube. Let us know how you like it, Josh. Thanks for viewing over there. And let's see, what do we got? We got Crassom. That sounds French. But anyway, morning. Thanks for joining me. Let me know where you folks are from. Always love to know where everybody's at that's listening to the shows. We got a great little show today. Again, remember, I encourage you always to send me your topics for shows. Just go to paulabernathy.com and let me know. You can't see it real well in the camera, but we've got some new swag here. These are our mugs, Master Electrician and Journeyman Electrician mugs, using our new T for tradesmen. So got some coffee flowing here this morning. Good morning from Nashville, Tennessee. Kind of right down the road. Okay. I'm in Virginia. It's close. Passed through it on my way here. In fact, I still have a light from my bass boat. Is still a resident now of somewhere in Tennessee because I lost it on the road. It just came off, and my wife was following me. It just came off everywhere. So it somewhere in Tennessee, that type of thing. So Josh, really impressed with the site. Set it as my homepage. Can't wait for more content. Yeah, a lot of stuff is coming. Some live shows, and all of these morning shows will be rebroadcast on Fast Tracks Tube as well. And then, of course, our webinars. That type of thing. So hopefully you're a subscriber to the platform. I don't know how much free content we'll have over there. We have every now and then we give some, but that is our subscribe platform. So hopefully you're enjoying that because you'll always be able to watch the morning shows from that platform using that live link. So, all right. And there is a slight delay over there. Okay. So keep that in mind when you post a comment that there may be a slight delay. All right, so great to have y'all with me this morning. We're going to be looking at some code questions this morning and talking about it. And you can ask questions about the code question, and get involved in asking some of the questions if you want to dig a little deeper. But that's what we're going to do this morning because there are people out there that are still preparing for an electrical exam, even here right at Christmas time again. There's no rest for the weary. You have to keep plugging away at it. So we're here to help you in any way we can. All right, so let's go on and get to some real quick and look at some questions. All right, so this is out of the module that you get if you order the practice questions or the exam prep question module, but it's also available to students that are in the Fast Tracks programs. It is the last module in your course, because we don't want you doing these questions too early. We really want you to read through the course material, use the chevrons, go back and forth, get a little bit of an understanding of the code before you start doing questions, because it can get frustrating for people if you're answering questions and you're like, ah, damn it, I need to read a little bit before I go jumping into the questions. Or there are some people that say, look, I'm going to do a lesson and then I'm going to do some questions, and then I'm going to do a lesson, I'm going to do some questions. There's no right or wrong way to do it. The key to being effective studiers is to make sure you set your time up, don't have distractions, and really dedicate time to it. Now, people say to me all the time, Paul, when you're studying for an exam or you're just learning the NEC, how much time should I study? I recommend you study at least twice a week, 3 hours to 4 hours each session, very focused, no distractions, and really, it's not always about how much content that you can do. Hold on, let me shut this thing down here. It's not about how much material you can get through. It's the quality of the study. So read the material, see the chevrons, go and look it up in the NEC in your hard copy. Don't use link. I use link for educational purposes, but go use your code book, look it up, get used to using the index, get used to using the table of contents, and then come back to the course and then keep going, okay? That's what we recommend. All right, so these questions are there for you, and there's a lot of them, okay? There's over 700 questions, not to mention all of your competency reviews. So there's not a shortage of exam prep questions. Again, this is open chat as well, coffee hour. So if you've got anything you want to talk about, post, any of my posts on TikTok have offended you, feel free to let me know. Just keep it clean. Otherwise you get banned and then you lose here too. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to do that too. So, what's up, Red Dog? Thanks for joining me in California. Up early. Man, that's the guy, like all you others that are in California, that say, look, I'm not letting the world get ahead of me. I'm getting up. I'm getting in there. I'm getting my hustle on. So again, good morning. All right, let's go on and let's look at some code questions and see if we can't work them out. Okay. So here is, oh, by the way, you see that our program also does give you a calculator built in, but we won't be using that calculator. We'll be using our own personal calculator when necessary, but you can use it if you're in the program. Okay, so let's look at this question here. If a branch circuit has 5 amps of non-continuous load, that is a load that is not on for what? 3 hours or more at its maximum output, okay? That's a non-continuous load. So we have 5 amps of non-continuous load, and we have 10 amps of continuous load, right? So the rating of the branch circuit, the rating of the circuit, this is obviously a branch circuit, shall be based on blank amperes. So which do you think it is? 20 amps, 15 amps, 17.5 amps, or 18.75 amps? Okay. So the first thing I always tell a student is, in time, you want to narrow things down. Okay. Always want to narrow things down. So right away, when I looked at this question, I'm thinking, what code section deals with telling me how to address a branch circuit for continuous versus non-continuous loads? Well, we're all familiar that branch circuit is 210, right? And so then we think, oh, where is it that we're looking, and we go, well, where does it give me the directions anytime that I'm going to be encountering branch circuit loading, okay? So you think, okay, well, where do I go for that? Okay, so we're going to go there, and I want you to see, of course, you can answer in the comments. Let me know where you think you go. And if you're watching this in a future recording, these are great to watch these things when I do these exam question reviews, and there's some of them on YouTube. There's some of them over on our Fast Tracks tube. We will be doing a lot more of these exam question breakdowns, because what we have found is that people enjoy them, and they're able to rewatch them, and then they pause it, and then they try to answer the question, they look it up, and then they come back, that type of thing. And it really it's like they're one-on-oneing with me. It's like a tutor session or whatever, and I break things down. Now, I do get the nasty grams from people that say, oh, it took too long. That video should have only been 2 minutes long, and it took you 10 minutes long. Hey, don't watch my video. It don't break my heart. I think people think it breaks my heart if you won't watch my stuff. I don't care if you watch I'm going to make it anyway, right? So it doesn't break my heart. But those that appreciate it, they'll get it. All right. So in this case, so let's go on and look at the NEC. So here we are at the NEC, and we're at 210.19 for conductors. Okay? That's what we're asking about. We're asking about the branch circuit. We've been given the loads, right? 5 amps of non-continuous, 10 amps of continuous. Okay. All right. Real quick, I wanted to show you a process of elimination. So one of the things that I teach students in question review is to get rid of the obvious. Okay. So first things first, you know the answer is not going to be 15, right? Right? Because if this is 5 is continuous, 5 is non-continuous and 10 is continuous, you automatically, through your training, you know that we have to do something different for the continuous load than we do for the non-continuous load, right? So you can immediately throw out the 15. So you have now increased your odds of 33% of getting a 33.33333 whatever percent of getting it right, because it's either 20, it's either 17.5, or it's either 18.75. Okay, we already know that. So get rid of the 15. Now it would be 15 if this was 5 amps of non-continuous load and another 10 amps of non-continuous load. Then you'd just be adding the two together, right? Because they're both non-continuous loads. That's not what we got here. So let's go to this tab. So we're at 210.19 general right here. It says, oops, let me get rid of that. It says branch circuit conductors shall have an ampacity not less than the larger of the following and comply with 110.14c for equipment terminations. Now, y'all remember 110.14c, that is your 100 amps or less and then over 100 amps, right? That type of thing, or 14 through 1 gauge, that kind of thing is 60, and then over that is 75. Y'all get that, right? That's your terminal, that's your equipment termination rules that we have to follow, unless everything is marked. So if the terminals are 75 and the load terminals are 75 and the wire is rated at least 75 or higher, then you can ignore the 60-degree ampacity column for normal wiring, not for non-metallic sheath cable, but for normal wiring applications, you can ignore the 60, right? Because everything is rated for 75 or greater. You get me? Okay, so that's kind of that allowance back there. Again, doesn't apply to non-metallic sheath cable. That's in 334.80. You have to read it. And that is always never going to exceed the 60-degree column. Even if you use a 90 for adjustment and corrective purposes, you're never going to exceed the 60. That's not the same when you're dealing with 110.14c for regular wire, like THHN, XHHW, things like that. Okay. Anyway, so here's where we're at. Now, it says the larger of the two. Okay, so the branch circuit ampacity of a conductors cannot be less than the larger of the two. Well, the first one right here says where the branch circuit supplies continuous loads, and we had 10 amps of that, and any combination of continuous and non-continuous loads, that's what we have. It says the minimum branch circuit conductor size shall have an ampacity not less than the continuous load at 100%, the non-continuous load rather, at 100%, plus 125% of the continuous load, okay? That's the first one. And it's the larger conductor that's yielded between either one of these. Now, the second one that you consider, since there was nothing in there about any adjustment or correction, right? There wasn't anything about more than 3 current carrying conductors. There wasn't anything in about ambient temperature. So I'm not even considering that one. I'm up here, okay? So pretty straightforward. If we come back to the question, let me see, we got some comments here. Oh, nobody's answered it yet, but we got another one here. ATM, welcome, North Carolina, another neighbor, kind of neighbor, right down the state, we should say. I'm in Virginia, so thank you for joining me. Okay, so how will we address this based on 210.19? Okay, well, this is pretty easy. So let's kind of look at this way, and we've got two things, and I'll also show you a way we would do this as well for the overcurrent protection. Okay, I'll show you both. Here we go. We got another TJIV. Good morning, sir. Let me know where you're from. Oh, there you go. South Alabama. That's what I'm talking about. Welcome. Glad you're here this morning. Christmas Eve, right? All right. ATM is throwing out there, says it's 20. Okay, well, we'll see, ATM. We'll see if it's 20. All right, so let's do the math here on it. So we got to do the continuous load at 125%, and that was 10. So let's 10 times 1.25, okay? And that is 12.5, if y'all can see that. So that's 10 at 125% would be 12.5. And then remember, it said the sum or the value of the non-continuous load, which is 5. So 12.5 plus 5 equals 17.5. 17.5 is this one here. We'll click it, and it doesn't give us the answer, right? But I am going to tell you what the answer is. And let's see here. Let me go back real quick, because I think I picked the wrong one that I want to answer. Hold on. Let me do this here real quick, because I didn't want to. It sucks that I picked the wrong one sample question here. I've got to go back. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. We're back. All right, reference. There's your answer right there. 17.5. There's your answer. Okay, because now notice it says 210.20a, and there's a reason, because now we're going to go look at what it would be for the overcurrent. All right, so overcurrent protection is 210.20, and it is basically the same thing. Continuous and non-continuous loads. Where the branch circuit supplies continuous loads or any combination of non-continuous and continuous, the rating of the overcurrent device shall not be less than the non-continuous load plus 125% of the continuous load. Not less than that. All right? So, still 17.5. It doesn't correspond to an overcurrent protected device. Then you're allowed to use what? You're allowed to use 240.4b, and we went up and we're protecting it at a 20 amp overcurrent protected device. But that wasn't the question. The question was just the circuit, okay? The branch circuit, and that rating is 17.5, okay? Here, that type of thing. Now, this is one of those questions where, depending on how it asks it, okay, this is just the rating of the circuit. And again, there are many people that would say, well, wait a minute, isn't the rating of the circuit the overcurrent device that you're terminating into? Okay, so again, reading the question, it depends on how they present it. Here, we just wanted the circuit information, so 17.5 is how you get the circuit information. But I always like to finish it with saying, okay, but we're also talking about how we would protect it as well in this question, okay? And so in this question, the 20 could be, if it asked me what is the overcurrent protection, then it would be 20. Makes sense? So I wanted to show you how we calculate the branch circuit conductors using this question, 17.5 amps, and the overcurrent protection, again, since nothing correlates to 17.5, then you go to 20, okay? All right, so we'll say 17.5, and then we'll go to this next question. Okay. All right, let's see here. All right, so let's see here. Next question we've got is in an occupancy, okay? In an occupancy, a blank ampere branch circuit shall be permitted to supply cooking appliances that are fastened in place. Okay, what do you think? 15 or 20, 20, 30, or 40 or 50? Which one do you think would be the answer to this? You gotta go look it up. But one thing I can tell you is that we're looking, actually, you know what? Hold on. Bear with me for a second. Let's do this. Let's do these. A little easier for you. A little easier to be able to look at here. Because we have a lot more of them here to do. Let's see here. Let's see. Let me go back here real quick. Let me get everything squared away, and we'll do some more questions. I'll make it a little easier for you to see everything. Hold on for a second. Let me get it squared away. Also in the chat, let me know where you're from. And I always love seeing where everybody's from. Let's do a little one that's a little easier for you folks to see. I'm trying to adjust the screens. So this one, a little easier to see. We don't need any timer, so we'll just leave it here. That way we can adjust it and I can move it around. This one allows me to move up and down. So it's going to be a little easier for everybody to see the questions on the screen. Okay. What's up, Jesse? Good morning. Long time no see. Welcome. Thanks for joining me this morning. Okay, let's see here. ATM 30. That was on the other one. Sorry, ATM. I jumped off of that one because I couldn't scroll it and let you see the whole thing, even the answer. I had forgot, and I had set the screen to a certain dimension, and I couldn't adjust it. So I want to go to one that allows me to scroll. Okay. All right, so we're at this one. It's a little easier for me to scroll for everybody. Okay. Oh, by the way, they have the timers up here. If you want to use the timers while you're in the program, I don't recommend using timers if you're studying for an exam. I recommend you put it on your phone. Just put a 2-minute timer on your phone and do each question under a 2-minute timer. People ask how I recommend you study like that. Is because your timer will go off, but it'll continue to click away to let you know how far you went past your 2 minutes, and it kind of rushes you and it helps you learn a little bit. Okay. All right, let's go here. These are easier to see kind of questions. It's a little bigger on the screen. So angle connectors for LFMC shall not be used for blank raceway installations. What do y'all folks think? And where would we go? All right, so first thing I'd look at this question, I'm like, well, obviously this question is talking about LFMC, right? I mean, that's what it's talking about. So that tells me I'm going to go to what? Immediately. You could go to the index and look under those type of reference. But me, I know, you've been studying, that has a specific article. And that article is Article 350. So we'll share that. Here's Article 350. Okay. And what we're doing here is bold scanning. I'm going to do bold scanning because I know that 350 is not a big article, right? So you got scope, has nothing to do with what we're talking about, not asking about uses permitted. Nope. It's not a size thing. It's not a number of conductor thing. It's not about bins. Okay. It's not about trimming. It's not about securing and supporting. Okay. Couplings and connectors. So the question, let me take you back to the question, okay, is about a connector. Okay. So that didn't take us but what? A few seconds to get there. For that one here, it says only fittings listed for use with LFMC shall be used. Okay, makes sense because LFMC is a listed wiring method. And of course, .6 now in the 2023 requires what? It requires all the fittings to be listed for the wiring method you're using. It says angle connectors shall not be concealed. Okay, so it's telling me flat out they're not to be concealed. So we'll go back here, and of our options, right here, concealed. Click it, and there you go. And then we'll give you code reference right there. NEC 350.42. Okay. All right. What's next? All right. Here's a good one. All right. The maximum continuous load that can be placed on a 150 amp fuse is, what do you think? What do you think the maximum continuous load is that I can place on a 150 amp fuse? Maximum continuous load. Oh, by the way, if you got anything you want to chat about in the comments, please feel free. If you're using our platform over on the Fast Tracks Tube, let me know. Love to know how that's working for you. Okay, and that type of thing. This database is available as well for you. So if you're a Fast Track student, or you can buy the database outright if you want. All right, let's see here. ATM says 140. Okay, Interesting where how your math worked that out, ATM, but we'll see here in a second. So first things first, continuous. So the device is rated for 150 amps. And so nothing was stated. It's a fuse. Okay. So basically with continuous loads, you're in a situation where you're like, okay, wait a minute. We're limited to 80%, which is a reciprocal, okay, of 125. Okay. So we're limited. So the first thing that we want to go is to see, okay, what is the maximum continuous load that can be placed on this 150? All right, well, let's go to the NEC real quick. And I will take us, since we're talking still, branch circuit applications, protecting conductors in branch circuit application. Let's go to 210. We were just kind of there. Let's go to 210.20 for overcurrent protection. Okay, so for continuous loads, again, it says not less than the branch circuit supplying continuous loads or any combination of continuous and non-continuous loads. So there's an or in there. So that or is telling me that if it's continuous loads or a combination of non and continuous loads, either way, it says the rating of the overcurrent device shall not be less than the non-continuous load plus 125% of the continuous load. Okay, so we've got nothing in here about additional ratings or 100% rating of the fuse. So we're limited. So we're going to take that 150 and we're going to multiply that by 80% or 0.80 because that's going to give us what? That's going to give us 120. That is one of the answers here, 120. Now we can check our work by taking the actual load, which is the continuous load. It's actual load. Okay. I always tell people also, remember, the load is the load. Just because we take something at 125% doesn't change what the load actually is. Okay. It's still 120 amps of load. Now, how do we know this? I can take that 120 and I multiply that by 1.25, which is the multiplier that we use. And that gives us 120. Okay. Or 150. So that 120 of actual load multiplied by 125%, that's where we get the 150. So remember, the reciprocal, depending on what you're given, right? Depending on what you're presented with, if you're presented with the actual rating of the device, then you multiply it by 80% to find out what the actual continuous load is that can be on it. And it's just an exercise we do of taking that actual load at 125% and then sizing, okay? The load is the load. It didn't change. The load is still the load. So in this case, 120 amps is the actual continuous load. So that is the maximum amount that we can put on this 150 amp rated breaker, okay? Fuse. So you simply can quantify that by doing the 150, multiplying that by 80%, or you can, when you get that value, you take that and you multiply that by 125%, and that's how you get the 150. So that's the reciprocal value, depending on what number you have, okay? If I was to tell somebody, said, what's the maximum overcurrent device for, the question was different. It said, what's the maximum rating of the fuse if it was a 120 amps of continuous load? Then it's 120 times 1.25, and you go size your breaker. If I'm given the breaker or fuse size, and I have to find out what the maximum I can put on it, then I go the other way. I take whatever the rating is of the device, and I multiply it by 80%. And see how they work? It's reciprocal. All right, so in this case, 120, and our code reference is right there. 210.20a. Okay. All right, the next one here, let's look at this one here. Let's see. Okay, the next one is a derating. Looks like a derating question. Okay, these are always great for people because you're working out these ampacities and stuff. All right, so derating factors in 310.15c1 shall be applied only where the number of current carrying conductors in an auxiliary gutter, a little twist on this one, including neutral conductors classified as current carrying under the provisions of 310.15B5 exceeds what? So what that means is in the auxiliary gutter, I have to start applying that rule where it's more than 3 current carrying conductors, right? But I'm in an auxiliary gutter. So the auxiliary gutter has other rules that you have to follow, okay? And so you're saying, okay, well, where do I go for this one? Well, this is an example where you're not worrying about the rules actually in 310.15C1, which is when you're dealing with more than 3 current carrying conductors, because this is specific to auxiliary gutters. And it would also be the same thing, by the way, for wireway. But here we're talking about an auxiliary gutter. So where do we want to go? Well, for me, I know that the auxiliary gutter is not a big article. And I also know that I'm going to use my bold scanning techniques because I'm not going to go to the index and start rifling through when I know that auxiliary gutter is not very big, and I know I'm dealing with the question about the current carrying conductors, and I'm going to use bold scanning because it's going to get the quicker for me. Now, you may already know this if you're in our programs and you've been studying. You might know the number because there's a specific number, as you see on the screen. But as far as somebody that's learning to maneuver the NEC, again, I just recommend in this case, if you've spent your time in there and you know that the article is fairly small or fairly short, only a couple pages, whatnot, then it's better to just go bold scan. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So what we're going to do is we know in our training that this is going to be the wiring method, and it's going to be here in chapter 3, and it's going to be right here, auxiliary gutters in 366. Okay, so I'm in auxiliary gutters right here, and I'm going to bold scan. And remember from the question, I'm looking at current carrying conductors. I'm looking for other references that I can remember. For example, these numbers, 20, 25, 30, 50, all of this type of stuff is what I'm looking for. Terms of current carrying conductors. I'm using all these terms as I'm bold scanning for something to, in my mind, trigger me to stop. That's what I'm doing. All right. So let's go back here. All right. So I'm going to hit it. Nothing. Don't need that. Permitted. Nothing about that. Use is not permitted. Nope. Not today. Conductors in parallel. Nope. Here we go. Number of conductors. That's just the number, and that's a percentage, not sheer number. Okay. Okay. Ampacity of conductors. All right. So you've got, all right. So as I'm looking at this and I'm just staring at it, I'm also making a notice, right, that it is including a reference. So I remember that reference right here. Okay. So let me see if I can blow this up a little bit for you. I know it's sometimes tough to see. All right. Right here, reference. And I also see a 30 in here, which was one of our answers. Okay, so the adjustment factors in 310.15C1 shall be applied only where the number of current carrying conductors, including those neutrals that are classified as current carrying. And remember, 2-wire circuit, that neutral is a current carrying conductor, right? Okay, most normal branch circuits, the neutral is a current carrying conductor. Okay, normal application. All right, so if it exceeds 30 at any cross-sectional area of the sheet metal gutter, all right, that type of thing, right? And you say to yourself, they're like, Paul, did the question say it was sheet metal? No, it did not, but you have to use some common sense in this question, folks, right? Because it's actually asking for a number. So for those that say, I got a code question, and they say to me, Paul, it didn't say whether it was metal, or it didn't say whether it was not metal, that type of thing. Well, you have to look at the question. So the question has some actual responses, and it's giving you 20, 25, 30, or 50, right? So when you go back to the code, right, you're looking at it and you're going, wait a minute. Well, see, this one is specifically the sheet metal one is giving me 30, and this language is exactly like the question. But when you get down to the non-metallic, okay, it says the adjustment factor specified shall be applied to the current carrying conductors up to and including the 20%. So you don't get a break. So in your mind, you're saying, well, obviously it can't be this one. Because of the language, you already know that it's this one. So that's another good tip about code questions is stop trying to make the code questions make sense to you. Just answer them and use your logic to determine how you should pick your answer. Okay. Buenos dias, Joe. Welcome. All right. So when we're looking in here, the answer is 30. And the reference is right there. 366.23a. And obviously the non-metallic one's not going to apply here. So because of the answers, you logically have to answer it as if obviously this is a sheet metal auxiliary gutter. It's obvious, okay? Whether they told you or not, because you don't have any of these answers for the non-metallic version. So again, be careful. That's how questions are written, right? And you don't want to argue with the question because you can literally answer the question. Might not agree with it, but it is what it is. Okay. All right. Next question. All right. Flexible cords that are rated for applications over 600 volts and are 12 AWG and larger. Okay. Saying, okay, well, first thing that you do as your astute code person, and I know you are, and again, let me know where you're from in the comments. Let me know what topics you want me to talk about in future episodes. This is a great time to let me know all that comment and feedback. If you're somebody that's not liking the show, bye-bye. You can go. See ya. So again, I think the misconception is people think I care about the clicks. I really don't. I'm going to do this regardless. So hopefully you're enjoying it. All right. So, and you also make it what you want. If you have any topic you want to talk about, anything you want me to elaborate on, anything you've seen in the news that may affect the electrical industry or whatnot, and you want comments, you've seen somebody post something on social media and you want me to give you some feedback on it, I'm more than happy to do that. All right. This is not just for exam prep. This has just happened to be what today's topic is. All right, flexible cords. So the first thing I'm going to notice that it's talking about flexible cords. So I know what article deals with flexible cords and flexible cables, right? And that is article 400, right? Now you can go to the table of contents or you can go to the index and look under cords and get you there as well. Unfortunately, Link does not give us index, and I wish they would, because I teach a lot of stuff with the index, and that's one of the things that went away when they went from the PDF version, is that we lost the index for educators. I keep saying that I'm going to scan them in, and I forget about it. Okay, so I want to make sure that I gotta make a mental note. Jesse, remind me. I got to take the pictures of all of the index pages. I wish I had somebody that had the loose leaf ones where you can pop them out and take a nice clean picture of each page, because I don't have the loose leaf version. So might have to get one just so I could do that. But I'm frugal as anybody. I hate buying one just to take pictures of the index. Anyway, is what it is. All right. So flexible cords that are rated for applications over 600 volts and 12 AWG and larger shall be copper only, not used, solid, or stranded. Okay. Well, let's see what we've got here for this one. Okay. ATM says he'd like me to do load calculations. Which specific ones do you want? You want me to do a single family dwelling load calculation? We can certainly go through that one morning as well. But be specific on the load calcs you want. Obviously, in 1 hour, I can't do all load calcs. But let me know what you're interested in. All right, so for me, I'm going to be going to 400. I know that 400 is not really big, okay? So I'm going to be going there. So let's get us in the code book. So here we are at 400. So right here. All right, 400 is, as we said, it is flexible cords and flexible cables. All right, it's not really big. So what I'm looking for is rating applications. So I'm looking, see, suitability, type. No, these are the different types, by the way, if you didn't know. Here's the different types of cords. Okay. Ampacity, it's not really an ampacity question. It's a rating question, and it's asking me when flexible cords for this application, 12 and larger, are they copper only, Is it stranded? Is it solid? Or can't use them at all? So it's a applications question. So I'm looking down at markings. No. Usage permitted? No. No. Usage not permitted? No. Splices? No. Pull? No. Show window? No. Overcurrent? No. Protection of devices? Nope. And you can glance at it real quickly and see that it's not making any of those references we're looking for. All right, construction specifications. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Labels? No. The construction? Okay. Well, one thing we see here, it might give us a little bit of a hint where we need to be. It says the individual conductors of a flexible cord cable shall have copper flexible stranding and shall not be smaller than the size specified in table 400.4. Okay, that's stranding is looking stranded. Looks like that is one. I didn't see any reference to 12 in there. So let's keep looking quickly. There's 23. There's 24. There's 30. Okay. Portable cables over 600 volts, right? Up to. This is what our question. Our question was over 600. All right, we're getting somewhere. Here. Construction of those cables. Okay, and remember, the question was really about construction, whether it's stranded, whether it needs to be solid, whether it needs to be copper only. So it's a construction type of question. And here's what it says. It says, the conductors shall be 12 copper or larger and shall employ flexible stranding. Okay. All right. So let's go back to our question. So all right, you might say, well, copper only, but then it leaves out the stranding. It seems to me that it's telling me that it should be 12 and larger shall be. So it's talking about the conductor sizing, not the conductor's material. Okay. So when it comes to that, if you go back and look at it, okay, the conductor shall be 12 and larger and has to have flexible stranding. Okay. So it just says 12 and larger. So again, we don't overly read into the question. We know that it is 12 and larger, okay? And we always assume copper unless stated otherwise, so we don't need to worry about that. But the key component is stranded. So I'm gonna click stranded, and our code reference is right there, 400.31a, and boom, that's what we're looking for. So you can see the question doesn't have everything in it, and some people want it to have everything, that type of thing, okay? All right. Commercial building calculations, again, that's pretty broad as well, ATM. So I doubt on a morning coffee hour we can do an entire load calculation for a building. We do have that in our Fast Tracks program. Commercial buildings, stores, that's unit 13 in our program. And we do have some videos on that over in Fast Tracks Tube. But we'll see what we can put together, at least put some pieces together that you may need to think about when it comes to commercial, like the lighting, things like that, and how to treat that lighting and other things like signs and the receptacles being 180 VA per strap and how to apply some of the tables and things like that. We'll try to piece together some of that stuff for you, but I doubt we could do an entire commercial building in a 1 hour coffee hour type of thing. But we'll see what we can bring together for that. I appreciate it. We will definitely do some construction building, some commercial calculations in the future. Appreciate that. All right. Let's look at another question this morning. And again, also, just like ATM, if you got any questions, feel free. I definitely will work that into some upcoming episodes. All right. The size of the feeder circuit grounded conductor, okay, shall not be smaller than required by what? 220.61, 250.66, 250.122, or 310.15b16. Which we already know that in 2023, that is an outdated code reference, right? So you're thinking, okay, well, which one do I need to use? Okay, so remember, key thing here, it says the size of the feeder circuit grounded conductor shall not be smaller than required by, okay? So we're talking about the grounded conductor. Now, could be larger based on a load calc or whatever, but this is just the general statement. You're thinking, well, where do I find this information? Well, first of all, it's talking about what? It's talking about a feeder. Don't we have an article that is dedicated to feeders? Absolutely we do. And a lot of people get confused with that because we have 210 for branch circuits, we have 215 for feeders, and we have 225, which is outdoor branch circuit and feeders, right? And so that's 3 areas that are dealing with different types of circuits, whether it's branch circuit, whether it's a feeder, or whether it is either in an outside or going out of side of the building to another building or something like that. So we have 3 different areas, but this is specifically asking about the feeder, okay? So let's go to the NEC and let's go to 215 because that's about feeders. Right here, feeders. Okay, so minimum size. Well, it didn't take us long to get to minimum rating and size for the feeder, all right? So A is general. So the feeder, again, this is very similar to what we saw with 210.19. Very similar. Continuous loads at 125%, non-continuous loads at 100%. That's when you're sizing the hot conductors. So that's pretty straightforward, right? And then you see right here, grounded conductor for a feeder. The size of the feeder's grounded conductor shall not be smaller than the equipment grounded conductor sized required by 251.22, except in 251.22F, that's dealing with parallel applications, okay, when you're running them in parallel, okay? Okay, so this one's easy. It said cannot be less than the same size that the equipment grounded conductor would be in 251.22 for whatever that circuit is. Now, the one confusion that we have with this, that people have, is you're still not sizing the grounded conductor based on 250.122. It just says that it can't be smaller than what the equipment grounded conductor would be required per 250.122. You still got the rules in 220.61 you got to follow. You still have the rules in 250.24 that you got to follow that ultimately are going to send you to 250.102C. You still got rules you have to follow. And that's where people go down that rabbit hole and they would have selected 220.61 for some reason. And you know right off the bat it's not going to be 250.66 for that's because that's the grounding electrode conductor sizing. And used to be 250.102C. That information was really, it directed you to 250.66, but that went away. So this is the one that answers the question. And you could have thrown this out because it's just an ampacity table. It's really not even relevant in the 2023 edition because it's 310.16 actually. So in this one, you could have gone to, but that doesn't really answer the question. But if you were looking at it really quickly and you weren't thinking about it, and you're like, dude, I just want to answer this damn question. I'm got to get going, then you might have said, oh, I know that the feeder, the grounded conductor is sized in 220.61 reference, and you would have gotten it wrong. You ready? Watch. Wrong. Your answer is 250.122. And here's your reference, 215.2B. The key trigger here, it is a feeder circuit, okay? And you got to think to go, remember, 215, feeders, okay? One of the things I also tell you is folks are asked a lot about, did we lose the flashcards in the 2020 and 2023? No, we just moved them to this new database. So you do have flashcards. They're just not like they used to be in the old Black and Plus programs. Okay, still got flashcards. All right. All right, another question here. All right. AC or DC rated snap switches, okay, UL20 by the way, snap switches, shall be allowed to be loaded to blank % of their rating when used on inductive type loads. So if I'm using an AC or DC rated snap switch, maybe using it as a disconnect or something of that nature, I have a rating that the switch is rated for, stamped on it. Okay, it's manufacturer, it gives a rating on it. And here it's saying if I'm using an AC or DC rated snap switch, I'm allowed to what? It shall be allowed to be loaded, that snap switch, to what percentage of its rating when used on specific inductive type loading. Okay? So what is it? Is it 100%? Well, there's an answer for you. Is it 80%? Is it 50%? Is it 115%? Means these inductive loads, I can exceed the rating of the device. I don't think that'd be a good idea, so I could probably eliminate that one right away. In itself, it doesn't make sense for me to think that this would be 100%, because otherwise it just doesn't make sense to say it that way. But we're going to look this thing up, but I'm just using deductive logic here, right? And so it doesn't seem like these two right here would be too logical of choices, which leaves us a 50-50 here to see whether we get it right or not. But for us, where are we going to look? Okay, so what are we talking about? What are we talking about? We're talking about switches. Is there an article for switches? Absolutely, there's an article for switches. So let's go. And you could go under switches and look under for AC or DC snap switches. You could look under the index for snap switches. Get used to using the index, okay? Also, make sure you watch our three-wave method of preparing for an exam. I wanted to remind you that before I forgot about it. If you're preparing for an exam, you're taking it in the next couple weeks, and you're doing these practice questions, make sure that you watch our three-wave method. You can find it on our YouTube channel, but you can also find it on Fast Track's Tube. It's basically the ways to prepare in the exam, how you take an actual test, how you do it, okay? All right, so anyway, let's go to switches, and we'll go to 404 for switches. Here we are, right here. So I'll click on it. So here we are, 404 for switches, right? And so what we're looking for, if we know the question was, we're dealing with inductive type loads and we need references to AC or DC rated snap switches. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to bold scan. There. Nope. Nothing in there about that. Nothing in there about that. Nothing in there about the switch itself. Enclosures, nothing. Damp or wet locations, nope. Time switches, flashers, similar, nope. Position, nope. Nope. Indicating, nope. It's not really what the question was about. Accessibility and grouping, nope. By the way, there's your switch, your height, where you get 6'7". For anybody that ever wondered, your height limitations. That's the location and accessibility, just in case you wondered where that was. General use snap switches, okay. Mounting of general use snap switches, okay. Circuit breakers of switches, okay. Grouping of switches, knife switches, ratings and use of snap switches. Because remember what it said in our question, okay? What is the rating of that snap switch when it's used with an inductive type load, okay? All right, so we're gonna be looking here. And AC, alternating current. Hey, this may throw you because the question didn't write it out. The question just had it as AC, so maybe that will throw you, so always be aware of that. So alternating current or direct current, general use snap switches. And the first thing that I'm gonna remember is I was given percentages, right? I was 50, 80, 100, and like 115%. All right, so right off the bat, I'm seeing a percentage jump right out of my face. And I'm also seeing that it says inductive loads, okay? So I'm seeing that right away, and I'm thinking, well, that's it. There's nothing else in there. That is the questions about an AC or DC snap switch, and I'm not looking at resistive loads. Plus, I see no percentage in there. This is the only one. So boom, I use the question to hone in on it. So it's 50%. So I'm back here. Again, 50%. Code reference 404.14b2. Easy peasy. All right, one last one, and we will go on and get you back, and then we'll close today's Christmas Eve episode out. Okay, cable splices. Also, let me mention really quickly, coming up in the new year on these coffee hours, at the end of the coffee hour, I will be giving away a course. Okay, and it might be a mini course on some type of topic, whether it's conductor ampacities or some. I will be giving away a course at the end of every episode. Okay, and it will be to just a random. I will have it on the screen. It will pick a random person that's in the chat. You have to be actively here, and it will give you, and you can get the free course. Okay, so that's coming up, and it's in the when we start in 2025. Okay, at the end of each coffee hour. Okay, just want to let you know that's what's coming. All right, so let's answer this question. Cable splices and type MV cable, medium voltage cable joints, made and insulated by approved methods shall be permitted to be located within a cable tray, okay, provided they are blank and shall be permitted to project above the side rails if not subject to physical damage. Now, I've had this question come up, actually had this question come up for a real installation the other day when I got a call from a guy who was wanting to splice a tray cable inside of a cable tray. And his question is, can you splice it in that cable tray? That was, that was his question. Now, that ought to help give you some of the answer, because obviously cable splicing and all these type of things, it is right here asking about it within a cable tray. So your mind should be focused on, okay, obviously it's in the cable tray article. And we're talking about splices. We're talking about joints. Those are key triggers, right? So now I could go to the table, the index, and look under cable trays and go down and look for maybe splices or joints or something like that. Or you might say, cable tray is not a big article. Once you get past the points like .22 and .80, which are basically ampacity and configuration, everything else is pretty short in 392. So my advice is, if you keyed in right away that you knew that cable tray was article 392, then that's where you go, right? And you're going to go there, and we're going to go there. So we're going to go to 392. And the reason on these shows, not just because we don't have the index available, is I do not want the index to become a crutch as well. Because on an exam, you're only given a certain amount of time. And if you get lost in the index, so you have to get proficient with the index. If you get lost in the index, then that clock's going to be ticking down, tick, 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 and you're going to run out of time. And then you'll find yourself at the end struggling to answer questions. And so I don't want it to be a crutch. That's why we say get into a structured program, because a lot of these questions you'll just know, and you'll also learn when it's best to just go to that article, if you can identify the article, okay? Dissecting it, finding the root questions. In our case, it's about splices and joints in a cable tray, very specific. So I'm going to hit bold scans. That's nothing about that, okay? Nothing there. Uses, nope. Cable tray installations, okay? But I don't see anything about splices in it, okay? Markings, no. Okay, installation, no. There's a number of conductors in it. Again, that's one of the biggest parts of 392, how you configure them in a tray, whether it's a ladder tray, whether it's solid bottom, things like that. You've got different configurations there. There's a ladder and vented trough type cable tray, but that's nothing about what we're looking for. Keep going down. Securing and supporting wasn't really the question at all. Expansions plates, splice plates. All right, well, splice is in there, but you notice it's really not dealing about splices and joints itself, so obviously that didn't help you. We're skipping down. Boom, right here. Cable splices and type MV cable joints. Okay. And I also can tell you, I see the word approved, and that was in our question, so I know I'm in the right place. So cable splices and type MV cable joints made and insulated by approved methods shall be permitted to be located within a cable tray, provided they are accessible. Okay? And then everything else is just continuing on with the same verbiage as our question was. But the key is accessible. So back here, okay, of all these applications here, accessible. Click it, and there you see it, 392.56. So that's kind of how we dissect it, and we kind of use the verbiage within the question to be able to break it down. Okay? All right, guys, hopefully you've got something out of today's coffee hour here on Christmas Eve. I hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas and New Year. We will not have a live show tomorrow morning on Christmas Day, but it will be a show. It'll just be a recorded show. Hopefully you still, get up and before, Santa has already done his job and you're just sitting there waiting for everybody to wake up, get you some coffee, come on down and watch our pre-recorded show and enjoy it. But remember, you can always ask me questions by going to paulabernathy.com and submitting them. I'm always willing to answer questions. Sometimes it takes me a little time because I have a lot of them. Some of them stick out more than others, so they get answered quicker, but Bill will get answered in time. But that's a great way to interact with us. And remember, it's the season, and they're there for a reason. It's not about the gifts. It's not about the things. It's about sharing it with our family, sharing it with people you care about, and realizing there's a reason for the season. We're all blessed to be here. We're on this rock of small amount of time. And so for me, my mission is to teach as many people as I can. And your mission, only you know what your mission is in life. Take care of your family. Do the best you can. And just be a good stewards of what we do. And let's push this industry. Let's help other electricians be successful. All right? All right. God bless everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And we will definitely see you in the future in another upcoming episode. Take care. God bless.